3, 2, 1.
Trebuchet!
Trebuchet!
Trebuchet! Trebuchet! Nah,
You got to say with an English accent, trebuchet.
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 Oh my God.
Shit.
Welcome to another episode of Science Fiction Remnant. And you already know it. This is going to be one of those episodes. My name is Robert.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you already know it. My name is Robert. Well, you already know it. I'm Chaos.
You are Chaos. It's true. And down here in South Florida, otherwise known as Australia, is Mad Scientist Ray.
Also known as Trebuchet.
Really? Since when?
That's when I have too many drinks. I get Trebuchet. Boom.
Oh, I thought it was trebuchet.
That's more like the old Calderon at the gates.
So I guess I gotta say this, right? So if you got, if all of you out there are listening to our show and you haven't seen this film, I recommend you pause us right now, go watch the film, and then play this little game. Right? Whenever they say trebuchet, you take a shot.
And then when you get out of hospital after having your stomach pumped, you can listen to the rest of the show.
Oh God!
Kill people. We need more listeners, not less. Robert, stop killing the listeners.
Drinking games anymore.
It's not safe. It's really not safe.
For this movie, it's not worth it.
No.
So, what have you guys been watching this week? I'm changing this up.
Thank you. Just
Robert has been watching some Star Trek plus Trebuchet.
We are for all of you out there who are actually following my rewatch of Star Trek. We are currently on season 2 of Picard. And honestly, I can't wait for season 3. Season 3, I have not watched yet since it released, only because I was in the middle of the rewatch and I was trying to save it for the rewatch. So, although I watched season 2, I'm kind of like secretly waiting for my wife to finish 2 so we can watch 3 and I can get a reaction. But it's really cool because she did watch Picard season 1 and season 2 earlier. And now that she has done the complete rewatch, it's really cool to see how she even tells me, like, this second time that I'm watching, I understand so much. We haven't had to stop once for me to go to YouTube and find references because she's actually finding references before I find them. Sometimes she finds references that I wasn't even thinking about.
The Trekheads being out-trekked?
Possibly.
You've created a monster.
Yes, I have, because I can't watch my anime now. So, yes.
So I got a question for you. I haven't seen past the end of season 1 of Picard. Is it worth it? Should I?
Oh my God. And season
You're
3.
asking the wrong person, Ray. He's gonna
No. It's like, it's kind of hard to explain because it's like, it's season 2 going to be better than season 1? Hold my beer. And is season 3 going to be better than season 2? Hold my beer. It gets, the stakes are higher every time. So yeah.
I might have to join you in that watch.
I'm really enjoying the rewatch, and I can't wait for the season 3 once we get there. So as far as gaming is concerned, I am playing the Last Defendant, and sorry, Gio. I mean, we barely have any time to play Diablo, so we haven't played in a while the Last Defendant. But I know you have played a lot of that. So, and I'm also playing Lunar the Silver Star. Is my little retro heaven.
Oh, by the way, he's the first descendant.
The first descendant.
I don't know which one is the last one.
We'll find out at the end of the game. We'll find out at the end. Thank you for that. It is so interesting that because I was playing, my daughter comes in with my grandbaby every Sunday, and when she came in, I was playing Lunar, and she's like, "Oh my god, that brings back memories." She remembers me playing that when she was younger, and she actually even played it before. So like now you you make me want to play now. It's like yeah, yeah, you can play it. So yeah, it's we're the point where Galleon has come back from the area that looks like the moon, and come back to the
So Arizona, right?
no,
What?
this is literally the moon. When you look at it, you see the gray rocks and the craters and all this stuff. It's really cool because you are on the moon. And he's come back to the regular area where the grass is in to do the final battle. So I'm getting close, very very close to the end of the game.
The final countdown.
There you go, the final countdown. And that's all I have related to sci-fi.
Because when you said The Last Defendant, I thought it was a courtroom drama.
No, the last defender is what you'll find out at the end of the game, the first descendant.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
we had to finish the game.
Are you sure that's everything, Robert? Hentai, if it's sci-fi, it counts.
So if it's an alien doing the deed, it counts.
I mean, even if there's tentacles involved, it's fine.
Okay, who's moving along this conversation?
Said no one ever.
Moving on. Actually, talking about Evangelion Genesis, even though I haven't been watching it, I found these kick-ass sneakers, bro, that are themed with Evangelion, like the units 01, 02, and it's badass, bro. I'll share it with you on that. If you want to see them, you go to our Discord channel and you'll see them, and they look so amazing, man. Like anybody that looks stylish sneakers gonna want that shit. That's how cool it is. So if you're watching, you could actually see our Discord QR code downstairs in the South Florida camp. uh, so go ahead and scan it, or you can go to our website, the Science Fiction Remnant, and also get our Discord channel on there. We're very active in there, and you'll get things that you don't get in our other social medias, like information about future things.
Okay.
And you can actually ask for things like that in there. Um, so I've been watching actually. Go freaking figure that because Robert doesn't want to read subtitles. He's
Hmm.
missed this one out, which
Hmm.
I am in love with. Over the moon. My wife has no emotions. It's a total rom-com, sci-fi.
I'm really surprised because that is Robert Safe, and typically that's not
Oh
stuff.
no, that's like Robert. Ooh, ooh, ah, ah,
So it's Robert Titty Twister safe, is it? It's like
yes,
extra bit up to
it's super cute. It's sci-fi, but it's a total rom-com, and I mean, it's one of those shows that when you watch it's like a warm, fuzzy feeling to watch.
Gio, are you up to date? Have you seen episode 3?
Yep, I am.
Super Mina.
Yeah.
Super Mina.
It looks. I'm like shit, bro. But now I want him to like find some way to do an upgrade because it's gonna change the whole scope of possibilities with Mina.
You do remember in the last episode that the sister said, "Is there anything I can do for you?" And Mina said, "Can you buy me this upgrade pack? It's only 7.5 million yen, which is like is it
how many dollars? The problem
75,000, I think.
$75,000.
Is it or $7,500? Trying to remember the conversion.
Okay, yeah, no.
We can Google it.
But it's a lot of money.
You can keep on jerking off, dude. Not gonna get that. I'm also been watching, which it's been all over the internet because they just dropped the finale for the fourth season, The Boys. Holy shit! I'm not sure if it's Robert Safe You might
Not
need therapy.
The first 10 minutes of that first episode is not Robert safe.
no, it's not Robert safe.
Oh, don't think that it gets better after 10 minutes.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Put it this way. Put it this way. For you that have not watched it, if you like fucked up things that challenge social norms, this is perfect. Imagine the Justice League, but they're all a bunch of psychopaths. And you can put a stop to them because they are scary, bulletproof assholes. So everybody's had to brown nose and kissing ass on these guys and make them feel like they're on the top of the world. And they just go on and on. Imagine that. And society backing it up because they cannot put a stop to it. It's scary. So, I mean, I find it highly interesting because this show explores those things that not many people want to think about. It's very interesting on that. It's really a social experiment. A thought experiment for
So,
sure.
so it's horror.
Horror.
It's a-
It's not horror on directly. It has horrors on it, but it's more of like a action drama sci-fi, you know.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, I think that the fucked upness of it is the senseless killing. Like imagine Flash, and because he's an irresponsible piece of shit, he runs over somebody and just splatter them, and he just here get a check, shut the fuck up, and he continues. You know, that kind of like psycho heroes you get in here. You know,
Yeah.
and then you got people that are doing everything to stop them. So it's very interesting. Should watch it for sure. I'm also being playing the first Descendant.
Not the
Uh,
last one.
huh?
Not
No,
the
not
last.
the last.
Not the last defendant, the first descendant.
No, yeah, no. That's what's it called? The anime attorney, Ace Attorney.
Yes.
And I also been watching Kaiju number 8, trying to catch up with that one. Fun stuff going on. I would continue reading the manga, but I have my hands pretty full with a certain scientific biologist writer book.
Well,
So,
My eyebrows are bouncing up and down at the moment.
which
I
is very
would,
interesting too.
I would
In sci-fi,
continue.
I cannot say what it is yet because it is confidential.
It's very, very confidential. Gio, I would continue reading Kaiju number 8 if they have more chapters.
The latest chapter just dropped like a
I
few
have
hours ago.
I am not up to date with the manga. I left the manga around chapter 65, 70.
Oh man, we
One 111 just dropped,
You
Robert.
can ask Ray in how much depth I am going through his book and auditing and like putting comments and shit.
Mhm.
Like I'm reading every chapter like maybe 2 or 3 times.
Cool.
Wow.
Put input. So I
So
try.
about 1/10 the amount of times I've read it.
That's the thing. By the time that it's published, I will know the book up and down. But I mean, Ray can attest for it, and Robert that I am an all or nothing kind of guy. So I either don't do it or I'm gonna go like beyond whatever you expect I will do.
Go out with a bang.
No, I really appreciate it, Gio.
Bang. What have you been watching, Ray?
What have I been watching? Let's see. My wife has no emotion because it's freaking awesome.
Oh
Um,
man, I hate it. I'm sorry that your wife has no emotion.
This
I wish. No, look, complete opposite.
joke is getting old.
I'm not going to go into details, but yeah. Anyway.
He has emotion.
This particular show, my wife has no emotion. Yeah, I mean, it hits at a lot of levels. It's got comedic elements. It's sort of future looking. It's got questions about people who are very lonely who emote towards things that aren't alive. There are instances in Japan where somebody married their Pokemon and somebody married their hug pillow. So it's not unheard of, certainly.
No, it's not.
And I'm sure in other places in the world, very lonely people have married things that weren't normally married. But yeah, I mean, it's a good show. It hits on a lot of levels, and it's not terribly violent, so it's Robert approved. So one of these days we'll get Robert to watch it when he's not buried, neck deep in Star Trek.
I was thinking Robert because like there's shows that he might end up having to give up on waiting for dubbing because I've noticed that even if time passes, if it doesn't have a big audience, it would never dub. And what's the reason for? It's an undertaking financially for a producing company that is not worth it. I mean, there's animes that are finished that are great, the slice of life that they never dubbed.
There
So
was one the other day that I saw that was getting a dub that had finished like a while back, and I couldn't remember which one it was. I have to look that up again. Find out if it's Robert approved.
I,
See,
one of the
see,
things I like about my What Has No Feeling, which you mentioned and I like, is that the future that it projects could be virtually now. Because you don't see anything else like robotic that doesn't exist in our actual world when you think about it, right?
I think I would end up watching it. I just right now there's what 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So I might have to wait until there's more. Because as you know,
you're a binge master.
Yes, and that's the reason why I'm hating Kaiju number 8. So yeah, I'm gonna wait.
I have a
Kaiju number 8. The anime is completely dubbed from 1 to 12.
I have a hashtag for Rover.
Oh, dear. And if you're wondering what I'm cackling about, you need to check out this episode when it drops on our YouTube channel 1 month after the pod release.
Yep. So what else have you been watching, Ray?
Okay, so obviously I watched the IP that we're going to talk about today, but when that finished, strangely enough, Amazon decided to throw me straight into the first episode of Fallout. Now, Fallout's very sci-fi in a 50s retro kind of way, and I've played all of the games. And I started watching this thing, and I'm going, because they nailed it. It was awesome.
We gotta do an episode.
All little posters inside the shelters, and the way the war went down, and the thing that really I flipped out over, and you probably saw me typing it in our recording channel, was, oh my god, he's got the garbage gun. Have you guys played Fallout 4?
I have. Yeah.
Remember the garbage gun?
I remember it.
It would you loaded it up with all the crap pieces of junk that you've picked up that didn't have a use in the game, and it used it as ammo.
Yep.
There's this scene where there's a guy standing there on watch, and he's like your basic sort of Mexican poncho, big hat, rifle. He's standing there, and he goes, "Ooh!" And he looks down. There's a baby doll leg sticking out of his stomach, and he goes, oh, and then it pans down to the guy, and he's holding the garbage gun. And I went, that's the garbage gun.
Yep.
I used to run around with that thing for shits and giggles.
I want Nuke Cola.
Oh, Nuke Cola was in there. There was a vending machine in Vault 33.
I think I'm gonna make some Nuke Cola at home.
Oh,
I got a Soda Stream.
Okay.
You can make anything with Soda Stream.
And if there's an explosion in your neighborhood, I'll know exactly what
It'll be in the news. A Florida man.
So anybody who played and enjoyed the Fallout series of games, you should check out Fallout, the TV series. 8 episodes, hour long each, on Amazon. I loved the first episode. I just need a bit more time to catch the rest of it. Holy crap.
Cool.
All right.
And it's time for our first segment.
Okay. So let's make sure that I don't press the wrong button.
Because that never happens.
Art Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is Sci-fi.
And if you're new to the show, this is a segment where we feature our hashtag, This is Sci-Fi. So you ask, what is that hashtag about? The hashtag was designed to join the community, the sci-fi community together. So if you are a fan of your very favorite sci-fi thing, could be a book, could be a game, could be a TV show, it could be a movie, it could be an entire franchise. Or if you're a creator, you could be a writer, you could be a movie creator, you could be a podcaster. What better way than whenever you do your normal post for that thing that either is your baby or that thing that you love so much that you're so passionate about in posting, just add the hashtag this is sci-fi and follow the hashtag. So basically, what it is a couple of things would happen. People that are not normally exposed to that thing you're posting about will be exposed to, and also if you have other people that enjoy or that love the things that you are posting about, you actually will engage in a conversation. So Thi- this is I love the end up result, and this is something that we started it back in season one. For all of you out there who actually have listened to our show from that long, you actually will hear us talk about how we created it, how it was slowly picking up. Right now, it got to the point where you have people that have been um, uh, fans of this one thing, but not the other, kind of crossover because they have, engaged in a conversation about the other IP with someone that is very passionate about, and it piqued the interest just by hearing the passion of that one person and talking about that one thing they love so much that they gave it a chance, and now they encounter another thing, and that makes me extremely happy because I enjoy sci-fi of you know any medium in any form, and the fact that we are helping people discover more sci-fi for those who actually love sci-fi. It's incredible to me. I really really enjoy that. Um, so we also post articles. They are related to science as well. So you will find a couple of those in there, and whenever we do post an article to our website, sciencefictionremnant.com, we also post it with a hashtag as well. Um, and there's many ways that you can join up. Um, the easiest way would be for you to, if you are posting anything, could be again, like I said, could be something that you're passionate about, something that you have created. Just add the hashtag at the end. You can also join us on Discord. We can, talk sci-fi with you. We have a channel for anything. And like I said in many episodes so far, is if we don't have a channel for it, just reach out to us. We'll make it a thing. But I'll be surprised if there's not already a channel for the thing you love. You can also call the hotline. We have a hotline. Yes, you can call us at 305-563-6334. That's 305-563-6334. And a couple of things you can do. You could leave a message for any of the hosts here. You can leave your hate mail for our very own Captain Chaos. He's waiting for some. And you can leave.
Don't let him down. He's so sad as every week goes past and there's no hate mail. He's waiting for it.
You could actually leave a message and talk about a previous episode that we have done. Any comments you have for the host, or any episodes that you'd like us to do in the future. And the cool thing is, in the next episode, we'll actually play that recording and have a conversation around it. So again, that is 305-563-6334. And
just before you go on, Robert, I'll just say that this is how I ended up here. I told you to do that. you moaned about what you got wrong in an episode, and you said, "Well, you come on and tell us what's right." So we did.
So yeah, and you know, and that is a really cool thing because, and it's a good thing you mentioned that, because I seen this also, you know, in the hashtag this is sci-fi conversation, where you know you have your opinions and someone else has an opinion, a complete different opinion, and I love that. That means, to me, there's never like you're wrong and you're right. To me, is the different perspectives, and we all gain from the different perspectives on the thing. I mean, I might not agree with what you say, but I learned from what you said, and I get it. I gain a completely perspective. It's like watching that one thing from your eyes, from your perspective.
Yeah.
Anything you guys like to add to?
I've got a good one for you. So, creators, be it sci-fi or otherwise, this sort of hashtag is for you in more than one way. The first way is that it can get your material out there. If you add this is sci-fi hashtag to, you know, releases of your books or your artwork or whatever you're doing, it will help people find it. And the other thing is that, and this is very interesting, it's something that I actually picked up from a manga, which has an anime, but you know, the manga's way ahead of the anime. The manga is called My Dress Up Darling. And in that particular manga, there's a guy Gojo, who he's wanting to become a painter of dolls' faces. And he's sort of reached a plateau and he's stuck. He can't quite get it right. And the reason is because he's spent so much time trying to paint dolls' faces that he hasn't had enough life experience. And he's, rather than painting a person's face onto a doll, he's copying a doll's face onto a doll. It's just not working because he just stares at the dolls all the time and then tries to recreate the faces, but they don't work because it's like faxing. You know, the result gets worse as you copy it. Yes, I use that simile deliberately. We'll get back to that. Bring it back around. We will bring it back around. But let me continue here for the moment. So anyway, he meets this girl, Marin, and she is a Mad King cosplayer. And because he can sew, he makes clothing for the dolls that his grandfather produces the faces for, or the heads for. He's particularly good at sewing, and she's shit at it. So she begs him to make cosplay outfits for her, and so begins their sort of romantic association where he's making awesome clothes for her, and she's looking stunning. And later on in the manga, originally the father said, "Look, go and do something else. Go and experience life. It will help you with your painting." He's like, "How?" And then, just in the recent chapters of the manga that have been released, it's over 100 chapters now. It's explained that in experiencing more of life, he's now spent a lot of time looking at people's faces because he was doing Marin's makeup. And now, rather than making a copy of a copy, he's now painting actual faces onto these dolls. And he's reached that plateau and he's getting better without having lifted a brush for a month. So what I'm saying as a sort of simile to that is, go out. If you're a creator, go out and experience as much as you can. You might have a favorite IP, but go out and experience as many others as you can. I'm a science fiction author, and as has been mentioned a number of times recently, I'm writing a novel at the moment, and I'm going out watching lots of different sci-fi animes and all the stuff that we do for the pod here, and it's helping me. Because nothing is ever created in a vacuum. Your creative juices get flowing when you experience things that you find interesting. You go, hey, I can use that, twist it and put it in my story. I'm doing it all the time. So rather than, just sit there and stare at the page and try and come up with stuff, out of a vacuum, go out and experience life, experience a whole bunch of different IPs, and it will help you in your creative endeavors. So, our hashtag is not just for lovers of sci-fi, but it's for creators as well.
Yeah. And I will really appreciate it too, because I get to discover new things. I love that. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so are we ready for the next segment?
Hit it. And for the shout outs, I'm going to start by listing our Twitterverse, X, help audience. They're always there, keeping the party up. First one is Sleepy Captain Kyoshii. Next one is The Wanderer. One is Bess Motta. Michael Shea. Twist My Arm. Go and check them out. They're pretty cool guys. They have a podcast too. They love sci-fi things just like us. It is Twist My Arm podcast. You go and check them out. Mainly on YouTube and Twitch. They are. Love them. Love them. Love listening to them. Also, Gary B, creator, which is Gary Bloom, author.
Yeah, if you hear a previous episode, he was with us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Next on Instagram, we got Jorge Luis, dear friend of mine, and Heather too, that always being there from Ground Zero, giving us support. And last but not least, from Discord, new members that we got Creek Indian. Finally, buddy, we got you there. And
I sent him an invite.
Well, thank you, Ray, for getting me in here. Welcome to the Discordverse. We're happy to have you here, man. Captain Spandex. I think that one was a friend of yours too. Or
yeah.
I'm sure. Pretty cool guy.
He's a big UFO nut.
I love it. My type of guy, man. And last but not least, Lil Mo. I was gonna say a little friend of mine. He's not little, bro. He's a dear friend of mine too that got into the Discord verse. Welcome all of you to our Discord. We hope that you enjoy it. We always keep the party lit in there. And that is all for today's shoutouts.
Awesome. Okay, so we're moving along to
the Alita Army News.
Man, how many packets of cigarettes and bottles of whiskey do you have to drink to get a voice like that? He's sipping the whiskey right now. So, Creek Indian, who we just I dragged kicking and screaming into our Discord this week. He was off doing national lifting competition in his age group, which is 70 to 80. He's not a young guy, but he's a fun guy. And so we couldn't have a live stream again this week. But thankfully, it's his passion, so we got to let him go. But we'll have him back next week and continuing on after that. So the live streams will be back. But this week we had another recording. It was special episode 223, part 2, best interviews of Radio Chaos. I couldn't actually make that recording. I was busy at work. So that was Creaky and Angelus and special guest Vladdy from the UK. So you had an American, an Englishman, and an Australian walk into a bar. It was basically, that's what it was. So it's a worldwide fandom, most definitely. And they were reminiscing about the interviews with Tilly Lockie and Dimitriopoulos. Tilly is an advocate of cyberware. She has 2 artificial forearms. And Dimitriopoulos was he didn't have any. No, he did have a line. He had one line in the movie. So I don't know that you could call him an extra. He was the guy who was standing next to oh god, now can't remember the character's name.
Not pretty.
Robert dude, the guy with the Aztec symbol on his back.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty boy.
Pretty boy, yeah.
Hey, Gio's your favorite. Your favorite pretty
Japan.
Muted. Japan, thank you. Oh, I feel so bad. I'm gonna have to hand in my Alita Army card after that one. Yeah. Jesus, getting old. I'm sorry. Anyway, so Japan had an offsider, and the offsider said, "Are you going to kill her?" That was Dimitriopoulos. So we interviewed him. And it was an interesting interview, both on and off screen. because we had some serious technical issues. But we got around them thanks to Creaky, and that one went ahead. So I'm sure that in that recording, Creaky is waxing lyrical about that situation that brought him on board the live stream for the Elite Army. So yeah, interesting one. Check it out.
Nice.
Awesome. Okay, so
it's that time again.
It's the time. I'll get into it. There is a thing.
I've got you so well trained.
There is a thing. You know, there's a thing. What is that thing?
The thing.
There's a thing.
I mean, I have my thing in here.
Is the plot.
Oh,
that thing.
You got way too much enjoyment out of that, Gio. I'm just saying.
Or that which gives the show structure makes it boring.
Do we have a plot for this thing?
We do have a plot, but let's introduce the movie first. So this is one that Robert chose, so I'll let him introduce the movie, give it a little bit of background, bit of context.
Well,
so why don't you introduce the movie?
This movie, I remember I was at the office, and at that time I had a lot more time to read, multiple books all at one time, which people actually were surprised about. It's like, how can you read like 3 or 4 books at the same time? I was able to do it because I had enough time. To me, it was kind of like, when you watch a TV show and you finish episode 3 and then you pick up another show in episode 5. And that's pretty much how I would read books back in the day. Talking about 2001. In this office, I had a friend of mine that really enjoys books as well. And we kind of like were giving each other recommendations. And she actually recommended this book called Timeline from Michael Crichton. And I remember thinking, where have this book been? This book was published in 1999. And I'm hearing about this for the very first time in 2001. So, okay, it's listed as sci-fi. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. I know of Michael Crichton. You probably know Crichton. You probably know him from like Jurassic Park. If you are a sci-fi fanatic, you have to know about Andromeda Strain. But I was like, okay, give it a try. I love this book so much that if I read it less than 10 times, I would be surprised. Very, very surprised. So I remember in 2003, I think it was it February? I think it was in February. I can't remember. But the same person, because she loves this book as well, and I love the book. He's like, "Oh my God, you don't know what I just found out." And I'm like, "What? You remember that book, Timeline?" It's like, "Oh my God, it's like my favorite." Yeah, I know, it's our favorite book. They're coming out with a movie, and I got goosebumps. I was so excited. They're making a movie about one of my favorite books. And if you guys follow the show, another example of this to me was, if you go back in season 1, the episode that we did on the host, that was another one where I read the book and I found out later that they're making a movie. And I was nervous. I was a little nervous about because you know how it is, when you are trying to compete with the imagination of the whole world, and trying to show someone your vision in a movie. It's never going to be, you're never going to make everybody happy. But I was happy because this movie turned out to be really good. It wasn't, I was expecting the worst. So that's basically the story behind this film to me. I mean, we'll get into the other details as we go through the show. But it's one of those books that I really really enjoyed. As a matter of fact, I watched this today, and I'm gonna pick up the book again because I really really enjoy the story. And of course, if you have done this with other IPs, where you read the book and watch the thing, it could be a TV show, could be a movie. There's always going to be a difference. That they're it's understandable. You have a movie that the most that it could be is 2 hours. You can't fit everything in the book, so you're always going to end up with missing parts. But I'm really happy with end up results and how they play around with some of the subjects within the book. I apologize if I seem a little distracted, but our private chat is booming.
Well, you were going on for a while, so I thought I'd throw some shade on Chaos just to see how he'd respond. He responded in kind. Oh dear, we have a lot of fun on this pod. You've probably gathered that already. So this particular movie had a budget of 80 million and only a box office of 43.9. So it did pretty mid in the box office. It didn't make a profit.
Yeah.
But I suspect that it picked up a fair bit in syndication and home release. I had never seen it until today, so it was news to me. But Michael Crichton's a good author, so it's not surprising that he tells a rip-roaring tale, and I think it translated to the screen pretty well. And of course, it had Billy Connolly in it, so anything with Billy Connolly in it's usually pretty good. So anyway, having done all of that work now to set everything up, I'll go to the plot. Professor Edward Johnson leads an archaeological study in the village of Castlegard near La Roque Castle in, now how do you pronounce this? Dordogne, something like that, France.
We apologize in advance.
Yes, I do. I'm very sorry. If we have any French listeners, just get on the phone and tell me off for mispronunciation and correct me.
Yeah, get on the phone.
According to Gio, I need correcting occasionally.
No. Your French is beautiful.
That's why we have arguments. Anyway, Dordogne in France, the site of the 1357 hanging of Lady Claire, sister of Arnaud de Clevogne. Her martyrdom led France to win the 100 Years' War against the English. Johnston's team includes Scottish archaeologist Andre Marrick, Johnston's student Kate Erickson, Josh Stern, and Francois. That's how you're supposed to pronounce it. Francois Dontel, and his son Chris, although Chris is an on-again, off-again involvement in the dig. While excavating a nearby monastery, they find a sarcophagus containing the remains of a French knight with a missing ear, holding the hand of his lady, an unheard of practice at the time in decorating sarcophagus. Johnston travels to the American headquarters of the ITC Corporation, his project sponsor, to inquire whether or not they have tampered with the site. The student discovers a lens from Johnston's bifocals, and a note begging for help, although both date over 600 years old. When the students contact ITC, the company invites them to its headquarters. There, the team is introduced to ITC President Robert Doniger and Vice President Stephen Kramer. Doniger reveals that the process of developing teleportation technology, they locked onto a stable wormhole to 1357 Castlegard. Johnston was invited to see the past for himself, but his group has not yet returned, and they want the students to go back and in time and locate him. All but Josh volunteer to go. And they basically said, we don't need scientists, we need sociologists who know that time. Because basically going back there and speaking modern lingo would out you as being out of place very quickly. Of course, it's also a war zone, so not exactly safe.
Trebuchet!
Flaming death from above, yes. The volunteers are stripped of all modern technology save for pendant-shaped markers that they can use to initiate their return. The students are joined by the security team, including ITC's head of security, Frank Gordon, and 2 former military men. They were Navy SEALs. On arriving in 1357, the team finds itself on a path in the path of a young woman chased by English knights. The security men are killed while protecting the group, although one activated his marker after priming a grenade. When his body arrives in the present, the grenade detonates and shatters much of the teleportation device. Josh aids Kramer in making repairs because he stayed back. He's a physicist, so, he can use his skills. The team evades the knights. The woman leads them to an English-controlled Castlegard. They are captured and brought before Lord Oliver Devans and his second-in-command, Nikky. The team members are stripped of their markers, and Devans kills Francois, believing he is a French spy. The others are imprisoned along with Johnson, who previously had promised Devans that he can make them Greek fire for the English in exchange for his life. So if you don't know what Greek fire is, it's basically a form of accelerant, which is something that burns. But if you throw water on it, it burns more.
Liquefier.
Yeah. So basically, it will use the water. The water gets broken up into oxygen and hydrogen, and it will use it as fuel. And the more water you throw on it, the bigger the fire gets, which is counterproductive and counterintuitive. So throw dirt on it instead. Anyway.
It's napalm bomb.
They make their escape but are pursued by the English. Gordon and Johnston are recaptured while the others make for the monastery led by the woman. The woman. Yeah, well done. She does have a name, Nikky reveals himself to Gordon and Johnson as a former ITC employee, William Decker. So Nikky is now an English knight, but he is a time traveler. He had frequently used a teleportation device, but was not told by ITC that each use damaged his DNA until it was too late, at which point he would die on a return trip. He plans revenge on ITC and kills Gordon, who was his boss. Devans orders his knights to march on La Roque Castle, and Nikky brings Johnston along. At the monastery, Marek, Kate, and Chris meet with Clairvoyant and realize the woman is Lady Claire. They have changed history by saving her. Well, Marek did. Marek, who has become infatuated with Lady Claire, is given a horse to rescue his friends. Kate and Chris help by swinging the upcoming battle in the French's favor by leading the Clairvoyant's men through the monastery tunnels that they had previously mapped to the castle. As the battle starts, Marek is captured in his rescue attempt. Lady Claire is also kidnapped, but Marek frees himself. Lady Claire and Johnston, while Chris helps defeat Devans. Enraged, Nikky slashes off Marek's earlobe, and Marek realizes he is destined to be the knight in the sarcophagus. Marek defeats Nikky, recovers the markers, gives them to the others, and says his goodbyes while running off to help the French assure victory and restore history, like a good archaeologist should. As the 3 returnees activate their markers in the present, Josh and Kramer have finished their repairs and are after coming to learn that Doniger tried to sabotage their attempts. Doniger fears that the students' story is becoming public. ITC will suffer great financial losses. As the machine activates, Doniger races into it, attempting to block the teleportation, but instead he is sent back to 1357, where he arrives outside the castle and is presumably killed by a charging knight, who was charging at the 3 who then disappeared. Another guy shows up, gets his head lopped off. Tough luck. Chris, Kate, and Johnston safely return. Later, the team returns to Castlegard ruins, re-examines the sarcophagus, and finds that Marek and Lady Claire led a prosperous life after the war and had 3 children, Christopher, Catherine, and Francois. Roll credits.
Yeah. They return to the Rock Castle.
Yeah. Le Rock! Dun, 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 dun.
Which version is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 105? Which one? Anyways. Okay, so we are at the point of the podcast we ask the very first question. How old were you? And what was your first impression of this film?
I was 2 years old.
So should we go with you guys? I don't know about Gio if you've seen this.
I watched this movie. I watched this movie a few years ago with you, and before that, I had watched pieces of it on cable TV.
Okay,
I'm the noob.
so maybe we should let the noob go first.
Yeah, let the noob go first. Anyway, yeah. So I read the plot summary of this one. Well, not the plot summary, but the blurb, the one that they give you on Amazon, and I went, this looks like sci-fi adjacent. It looks like the technology's only there to facilitate the story. Almost, but not quite. But yeah, but no, but it's hard to say exactly. I guess it kind of qualifies as sci-fi if you look at it funny after drinking a whole bunch of shots. But really, the main crux of the story is, archaeologists get to go back in time and be in the world that they were digging up a couple of days before. So that's kind of the thing of it. The technology is only there to facilitate the story, really, and put a ticking clock on things to hype the tension in the story. It works, but it really doesn't feel particularly sci-fi. But there is science fiction in it because we don't have teleportation technology. So, there you go. That's kind of how I felt about it. It was quite a reasonable story. I picked the moment that he said, oh yeah, there's a knight here, and I looked at the carving of the knight. I looked at the guy's face. I go, yeah, it's you. You've dug up your own grave. Good job. and oh look, he's lost his ear. It must have been like broken off at some point, from damage or whatever. It's like no, this was carved that way. And I'm like, yeah, I'll just be waiting for the scene where you lose your ear, buddy. And it showed up. That foreshadowing was like so heavy-handed. It was not funny. Because also there was a scene where the guy's like hooked on medieval arms and armor. I'm like, yeah, well, that's where you're going to live, so you just as well, you've done your TAFE course, you're good. But yeah, I mean, yeah. And then when they started flirting, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the chick on the sarcophagus. Yeah, okay, fine. And then it's like, oh, and she's the girl that's supposed to die to help the French win. And it's like, oh. Okay, well, obviously she's not going to die. So then, obviously, the archaeologists are going to find a way to help the French win anyway. And they did. The end. So it was a tad bit predictable. It was still a good story. I thought it was going to be too brutal for you, Robert. I thought it was going to be like, Robert, like, freak out. Not approved.
Nah.
It was brutal. I'm not going to lie. It was brutal.
It was not portrayed on such manner, and it had a happy ending.
Well, it did, yeah. After all the people died,
yeah,
it had a happy ending. But I mean, that was war. That was war back then. I mean, people died all over the place.
Exactly. It's not like somebody that is a character background or front character you get attached to dies. No, that's not the case. You're looking at war, and they portray it on a way that is not. Even though war is war, it's not the same. You've seen people clinking and banging metal in the background that you see in the blood splattering and like the gushing and like the crude reality of it. They were PG-13 enough not to really portray this on the front camera.
Yeah, it could have been
when Kate killed the guard with the arrow and she's pushing it into his chest and he's like, I thought that would have been too much for Robert. It was too much for Kate, obviously.
Yeah, but look at the scene with Francois is the one that got me the most.
Yeah, that was shit. That was just basically setting Eric up to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah. So that was your first impression.
Yeah, I mean, it's a serviceable movie, a little bit predictable. I could tell where it was going from the moment the guy reappeared on the road in the first scene. I went, yeah, there's some time travel going on here.
But if you think about it, that's part of the campiness of TV back in the day too.
This wasn't TV. This was an actual theatrical release.
Yeah, it's a movie. It's a movie. TV. I watch it on TV cable.
I always wondered what you mentioned if that was done on purpose because I remember all the twists in the book were felt a lot more. Obviously for you, if you pick up the book now after watching the film, you'll know what all the twists are, obviously. But like looking back in a perspective, I actually read this prior to watching the film, and I remember all the twists, which were multiple, were felt more than how obviously they made it into this film.
See, that's the problem with translating from a book to a movie or screen. And just to borrow an example, June 1984, they had a lot of people whispering their thoughts in the movie, trying to get that what's going on in people's head things across without it being verbalized. And it's one way to do it, but it's a little bit heavy-handed.
Yeah.
And again, I think that when you're reading a novel and you get inside people's heads, you get a much better perspective of what they're feeling and what's happening. It doesn't always come across in visuals on a screen.
Yeah.
So, it's a different medium. It's going to land differently. And that's why I think the original book is probably the best place to get a real feeling for what the creator of the story was trying to get across. Sure, sitting down and watching a good movie of a book you like is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but the book is going to be the source. It's where the fully fledged ideas are living. So I highly recommend that if you really enjoyed a movie and it came from a book, go back and read the book. Sure, there won't be so many surprises, but you will find out what they were thinking. Oh, that's what he was thinking when he did that. That was his motivation. I get it now. A lot of that happens. And I mean, I did that, like the novelization of the original Star Wars. You actually get into their heads and find out what they're thinking. And it gives you a whole nother layer of context and understanding of the characters and their motivations. So I highly recommend, if you've got the time and the interest, that if you watch a good movie and there's a novel that it came from, go back and read the novel. That's my opinion. Other people's mileage may vary.
Yeah. Okay. Gio, I think you might be next on this thing.
I might be. Who knows?
You might be.
Destiny will have to tell us. This was a fun movie to watch. It's a movie that you can have a good time watching. You don't have to think hard on it. I think that's one of the easiest, best things about it is that if you watch it and even if it's sci-fi, you're not gonna be called a nerd. Most of the movies I watch, most people are like, "Oh, that shit is fucking boring," and they will call me a nerd for it, which I don't care. I take pride on it. But I think that's one of the upsides to this movie that makes it friendlier to a wider range of audience too. And I mean, I love everything Paul Walker. We fucking miss him. Yeah, such a even though he's no freaking Anthony Hopkins, but he was much no matter what he would do.
Yeah.
I as an audience and as a fan of Paul Walker, I do miss him, and this brings it home for me just because of that too, because there's one more thing that I get to enjoy of his great work.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you miss Paul Walker and you want to have a good time and watch him in medieval time, It's a fun watch, man. Just put your mind at rest and leave the science on the door. Because I mean, faxing people is an interesting topic. But
Haven't even got to that point yet.
talk about that too. But I mean, besides that, it's a fun watch. It's uncomplicated. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about the movie too. You know,
So I guess my perspective, I kind of gave you guys an advance
we,
at
we
the
need you to fax. We need you to fax your perspectives, Robert.
beginning. As I told you guys before, this was one of my favorite books. It was recommended by a friend of mine, and so excited when it was turned into a movie. Excited and afraid because I have watched way too many things that were translated from a book that doesn't really quite turn out the way it should. Uh, Understandably so. And I remember, from reading the book, this was one of the stories that it drew me in. It wasn't a complicated concept, just it was really entertaining. It was actually pulling me in with all the questions that I had and all the things that happened initially that I wanted to know. How was that possible? How can we get there? All the way to the climax of the end of the book. Um, I am happy how they did it. Um, in the book, and maybe we'll talk about this in the show. Although I have to agree with Ray that the movie was very predictable. It wasn't very obvious to me because I have already read the book, so the entire movie was predictable to me because I already read the book. But I can see that point, and I always wonder. Maybe it was a way for them to try to, cover as much within the book, making it that way. Um, but regardless of that, I believe that the movie, uh, was also as I explained the book was, which was a really really hard concept to understand, yet it was very entertaining to watch as well. So I was really happy when I actually saw this in the theaters. I was really happy with the end result. Plus, I was already a fan of the story, so maybe you can take this with a grain of salt. I was already a fanboy of the story, so I'm always gonna go and watch it. But then, with the same token, um, I have seen things in the past that I did not like that came from a book that I love. So um, I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to not being um such a fanboy with the story, but I believe the book it was good.
But
Uh,
for the record, when have you trash talked anything ever?
well, remember, we don't do anything on this show that we don't agree on, so that
Oh no,
helps
like
the
like we can talk about something and be constructive critic about it, but not even there you go.
Black Mirror. Black Mirror.
And that's the thing. Black Mirror was not even about Black Mirror. It was about you. And how
Exactly.
you-
So I believe that might constitute an answer for my first impression on this film. Although it's kind of interesting to me call it a first impression because um, it came from my experiences to the story through the book. So my first impression of this film will always be skewed because I already knew what was going to happen. But even at that, knowing what was going to happen, I really enjoyed this film. And knowing how like everything was so obvious in the film, I still enjoyed.
So is it safe to say that you knew what was going to happen because you had a faxed version of the movie?
Just the facts, man. Just the facts.
The fax.
No,
It's ironic. It's true. It's true. He got the fax version of the movie, the book.
It's because the book told me trebuchet, and that's why.
Hey, in the book, Robert, do you remember them yelling trebuchet a lot? It's like in big text, trebuchet.
Well, it seems to be, it's different in text, right? Because it's longer, you have a lot more. You have you get into the characters' personality, characters' thoughts, and you had that missing part from the film. So when you cut all that up, you actually are moving all the trebuchets together, and it seems that it's like overdone, and to a funny comedic twist. But if you actually read the book, it's spaced out because of all the missing things that you can't show in the film. Does that make sense?
Trebuchet.
It's a lot going on between trebuchet and trebuchet, buddy.
Yeah. Put a trebuchet on your trebuchet so you can trebuchet where you trebuchet.
I mean, there's no time on the film to put it, but you can go and take a leak while you're doing trebuchet and trebuchet.
Hey, that is called a treble insection.
Trebuception. Oh man, we need to do that movie one of these days. Get off the blacklist.
Yeah, we gotta dust our black.
It's a good sex position too, the trebuchet.
Is it? Do you fling the girl across the room at the end?
with your trebuchet arm.
Can we move along, please?
You got a pair of counterweights under your trebuchet.
It goes something like this.
Oh no. Moving on.
Demonetized, blacklisted. Bye.
Yeah, there you go.
You might need to pixelate that in post.
If I do that, I think that it will make it worse.
Yeah.
How great of media content creator I am that you have to see it uncensored, because if you censor it, it'll fuck it up. Uncensored, there's nothing wrong about it. There's nothing wrong. It's all your imagination.
It is sad to say I had to agree with that statement.
Imagination's a marvelous thing.
Exactly.
I just created a glitch in the matrix, buddy.
Trebuchet walks past again.
Oh
dear.
So I guess I gotta ask this question. And our very own mad scientist kind of gave us somewhat his answer already.
Yeah.
But
the answer is trebuchet.
Sci-fi or not?
Yeah.
We had this conversation of me and Gio actually watched this on a I don't want to call it a watch party. It was a watch along, Gio. And we had this conversation about if it is sci-fi or not. I don't think he remembered much of the story. I mean, we watched this. I mean, you watched this with me a while ago, and then you watch it here and on. So we're having this conversation, sci-fi or not. And he's saying, okay, what was your statement there, Gio? I think you said if you take away the oh man, it's gonna bug me now.
Time traveling.
If you take away the time traveling from it, is it still a sci-fi film? And remember, I said yes, it still will be. Does it make sense now that you? Well, I try to explain it, but now that on top of the explanation, you watch the entire film with me. What is your?
The thing is that the time traveling is a byproduct of the main plot. So there wouldn't be any science really, because there wouldn't be any machine or anything if there's no time traveling. Oh, faxing people.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it involves the what is it called? International Technology commission, ITC,
Corporation.
Yeah, corporation.
International Technology Corporation. So, given the organization that it's kind of sponsoring the whole event of the movie,
Mhm.
there will be another reason for sci-fi on it for sure.
Okay.
That is a fact. And I mean, and at the end of the day, I mean, how can you put time travel outside the movie? The whole movie is about that specific thing. It's about going back in time, in historical time and events, and doing the impossible, keeping them as they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is funny. I mean, that's one of the most like mind fucks about this movie, think it or not, is that they did keep it as it was, even though they saw it before it happened. Like they saw the hole in the wall in the cave, the
Yeah.
glass. So it gives you that paradoxical thought of, can you really change time? Or are there really fixed point events in time that won't ever change? Doesn't matter if you go back and try to disrupt them.
It
Yeah.
was wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. Oh,
exactly.
and and just to explain a little bit about ITC, they're they were working with a technology that, in essence, will disrupt human society to a point where human society would not be the same ever again and will not continue to be the same. So basically, what they were trying to do is, if you are old enough, you might not know, but a faxing technology is a technology where you actually get a piece of paper, you put it on this device that essentially will scan it and send it over telephone lines to another fax machine that you physically called. It actually had a telephone number, and once you press the button, and the handshake happens, you have those weird noises. Then the information gets travels through the phone line into the other fax machine, and it gets printed. Um, that
On
technology,
that shiny paper that you can't write on with a pencil.
exactly. Now, I seen there's still companies out there with they still use faxes. However, it's not a widely used technology anymore, because people have emails. If you want to send personal information, you have um, services from companies like Adobe that provide proof that you can send documents that are secured via email, or have people sign documents via email. So that technology is not as widely used as it was in the past. So why am I saying all this? Is back in 2000, and well, this if you take where the story was created, the book was released in 1999. The fax technology was very, very widely used from companies, corporations. So if you're old enough, you're probably are very familiar. You have
General email was only a few years old, and the size of an attachment you could put on it was tiny.
exactly.
So it really hadn't eclipsed fax at that point.
Yeah, you could send pages after pages after pages of fax, uh, and not couldn't do the same with email early on. Um, That's not the case today. I mean, there's still a limit on email, but we have gotten around that limitation by sending links to online cloud storage, where you can just download whatever it was sent to you. So going back to my explanation, back in 1999, this technology was widely used. So what ITC was trying to do, they were trying to send stuff the same way. So the idea is a company, like for example, a shipping company,
Send stuff.
exactly, send stuff, which they call it faxing, but they're because they're trying to follow on that technology. You know how you can fax a document, you want to be able to fax something. So they started with objects, say like an apple, an orange, whatever it may be. Um, and the idea, the original idea is to be able to, um, you know, provide a service for shipping companies where they can fax a shipment from one place to say across the world, saving a lot of money in transportation, making that a lot cheaper for the company who is actually selling. And since they were working on that, they had the bright idea, hey, we could also do the same thing for humans. And in doing so, disrupting the transportation, um, uh, the transportation business industry. So basically, you would have this machine. If you want to go to, say, Paris, you go into this machine and you just go to Paris in a couple of seconds. Now, and again, we talked about this technology in previous episodes because it is very similar to what a transporter would do. It operates differently, though. The transporter will actually just disconstruct your molecules, your atoms, and then reconstruct you in the destination. This device, apparently, how it's explained, it works kind of like a fax, which we're going to talk about this in a minute, where it actually reads you one line at a time and reconstructs you in the destination one line at a time. Now, knowing what we know right now, and we're not depending on the book for this because the book has the exact same explanation. I always had this question: if it acts like a fax, where's the original?
Yes. When you fax something, you still have the original copy. It doesn't get destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're using fax as a simile, it's either an inaccurate simile or the real people's bodies are lying over there in the closet.
I know what happens. I know what happens. They don't put it, but this is the kind of fax that has a shredder for the original.
Secure faxing.
That thing that is why probably they screen them out when they're trying.
Exactly. You know
that's so painful, bro. Screw that shit.
It only hurts for a little while while you're being discombobulated.
When Robert and I were watching the watch along today, and they're teleporting, I was like, that machine does not work. That is broken. If your machine makes me scream like I'm being ripped apart, I am not getting in there.
I always thought that they are being destroyed. And basically, because so apparently they have and they did say this whole thing is possible due to a quantum computer. This is back in 1999, guys, right? I always thought that's actually what happened, but I want to post this question for you guys out there who actually, all of you actually watched the film today and see what your thought is. Because I always thought, okay, yeah, if it works like a fax, this is kind of like what Captain Chaos was talking about, where he actually shreds the original and sends a copy over. Because I mean, if you fast forward through the film, and they're talking about this to Derek, the Wreck, or whatever his new name is. He's talking that he can't make one more trip because there's imperfections in the reconstruction process of this machine, obvious from the beginning of the film when we see the guy appear in the middle of what was it, Arizona, when they ended up in the hospital. The doctors were like baffled when looking at the x-rays because it seems like everything was out of alignment. And this person was saying
his veins, his spine, all the important stuff.
Exactly. So, this guy was saying that's the reason why I can't do one more trip because I already have way too many misalignments. And he said this, it's like kind of like faxing a copy of a fax.
But I mean, you can fix that easy, man. If you're disaligned or you need an alignment or something, just go to the chiropractor before you travel again.
They don't have chiropractors in 13, whatever. They just run a cart over you and hope for the best.
Make sure it has horses that go really fast. So what is your thought about that? I mean, this is my explanation.
I think it was a poor simile.
Is a poor simile?
Yeah, I think it was a poor simile. Yeah, I don't think that it worked exactly like a fax, but the whole process, the reconstruction process, was not perfect. It's a prototype. It's version 1. You never use version 1, like software, hardware, anything. Don't use version 1. Let some other poor sap use version 1. Use version 2, where they've ironed out enough of the bugs to make it vaguely functional.
Yeah.
It was dangerous, and obviously, the guy who was running the place wasn't telling them all the facts. He didn't want it to color their decision. In other words, he didn't want them to know all the details, because they would have said, "No way," and then you wouldn't have had a story. So,
yeah.
he was your basic corporate asshole. Which
yes, it's kind of funny. We were in the watch along with Gio. How did I call this guy the first time he showed up? The corporate head of ITC,
chief executive asshole.
Yes,
something like that. I would like to show you a meme which I've used before, but it fits this very well, and it fits this very well for a good reason. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think whether they should.
Yeah.
And it is quite the theme for a lot of Michael Crichton's stories, is about technology gone mad. It's, we've discovered this thing, bringing back dinosaurs or quantum teleportation or whatever it happens to be, using wormholes, what have you. And, people on the cutting edge who've decided, yes, we'll use it, but it's not safe. And it's basically cautionary tales about letting science and scientists who are too excited to stop and think about the realities for a moment of running away with the idea and creating huge problems. Because we haven't even discussed the whole time paradox issues yet. Which I want to delve into, but I want to get Gio's take on this question first, which is the one about the facts. Just the facts, Gio.
The facts. And your facts.
So I was telling Robert that it is humanely possible. You just need a big Ziploc bag so you can put people on it, because once you squash somebody into a 2-dimensional form, it's gonna be a lot mess. So if you use a good Ziploc bag, at least you can keep.
Oh, God. And this is how we derail this show.
But honestly, I mean, the guy coming back being a copy, like, it's just a whole mess, man. It's like, first of all, faxing. Yeah, I mean, kudos to them. They are not pretending to tell me teleportation. It is faxing. So they really are fucking up somebody so they can send a copy of them somewhere else. The other thing is that usually faxing is from point A to B. So it is interesting on that aspect that point A to B does not account as time being part of it too. So,
and I think that's where they had the issue. Well, they did say.
But they do say at the forward on the movie too, that they're molecularly decomposing somebody to teleport that information somewhere else, right?
Yeah, but I think what they said also was that somehow in the calibration process, when they created this, they by pure discovery, they got linked into a wormhole.
Yeah, a stable wormhole.
A stable wormhole. So that's why every time they fax something, it always ends up in the same place on the same time. So you could send it to New York, it always ends up in Le Roc in 1357.
Yeah, but it's not exactly the same time, because time was progressing in both places, because when they went back, the father had already been there for a couple of days and he was captured. If they'd arrived at the same time, they'd all be standing around in the same spot together.
Yeah.
So time was progressing in both places. So that was a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. I think that at the end of the day, that is one of the many things that shows that they do not really harness the control over such alien forces like time. And I think that if we look at it with a real hard sci-fi eye, uh, I wouldn't think that any organization of leading science in the real world would tamper to send a person like that, because even when you can intercept the channeling force of a wormhole, that is something that we do not know how to harness.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's cruel. I know. Well, we're probably gonna send your hamster or a monkey or something and see how he does coming in and out before we send a person. It always goes that way.
Yeah.
But and I mean,
Or you could send a vampire because they're not
yeah,
people.
yeah.
I'm actually referencing an anime called is it Irina the Vampire Cosmonaut.
Oh
Yeah, you mentioned that one. You know what I was thinking?
It is good.
You know what I was thinking? It's messed up because this is supposedly fantasy, but it has these kind of things about science. Mushoku
Mhm.
Tensei.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Mushoku Tensei and Nanahoshi trying to travel back, doing an interworld transportation by coming back in the right time to our world from Mushoku Tensei's world. And the way that they try to they do experiments along the way. Like they try first teleporting one object animated, and once they try to teleport and they get a feather, then they get a plastic bottle of water which doesn't even exist in their world, and then they try a live animal till they're gonna try to go and do it with a real person, you know.
yeah.
But
Do you want teleportation incidents? Because that's how you get teleportation incidents. And when I say
but
teleportation incident, I mean the destruction of an entire region of the country.
yeah, but again, I think that this links up a lot to concepts like alter carbon with the DHF chip, you know, and you were asking what way, and it's like you are probably just killing a person and getting a conscious copy of them replicated. And at the end of the day, the version that is alive, there's never gonna be two versions of them alive in the same place to confirm this, and you will never know them because if you always kill one and there's only one, there's no way for you to prove that. But a fax is a copy transfer. You always stay with the original.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah,
that
that was where the simile fell down, I thought.
I think it could be accidentally or it could be purposely, which gives it a dark freaking touch to it, if you
Oh, yeah.
think of
I
it.
always, I always thought about the dark
And the
thing.
leading director in ITC kind of allures to that because when the guy from FBI wants to bring his man's back, he steps in the way of the doorway. He tells you, you're not doing that. The project is more important than your man. So how the leading doctor took a stand on screw the man, the project is what matters, gave me to believe that faxing people was purposely what it was.
I always thought that. I always thought that because it is actually proof to me on how that guy was and how shady he
Yeah,
was.
Yeah,
I
he
told
was
you
shit.
you shouldn't trust him. He's a werewolf.
He's
If you don't
always
believe,
yeah,
go and watch Harry Potter.
he's always telling the other guy. Remember when he had the fight at the end with the guy? He was always telling him like, how would it look if we have people come back with like misaligned, like veins or bones and stuff like that. That would look so for him, he wanted everybody to stay behind and died.
He should know how would it look because they got somebody coming back like that. And I think
Yep, he had example number one, and they had to rush off to the hospital and grab all the bits, and the data, and everything, and run off with it.
Exactly. All the data or the X-rays.
Exactly. I think that looks far worse than trying to look at the problem and resolve it. Having to retire with an FBI guy, a dead body that looks very, very bad because everything seems shifted inside. Perfect, like it was in a freaking shredder.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
So I don't know. I always thought that. I always thought that was the case.
You know what that opening scene reminded me of? The Philadelphia Experiment.
Oh, yep.
A movie we need to do.
Yeah, we do.
But yeah, it was very reminiscent of the Philadelphia Experiment. It worked, sorta.
I think Gio would love that one.
Yeah, you haven't seen that, Gio?
He would be all over it. Totally.
Especially the guy hanging out the wall.
Yeah, he'll probably be putting the the saran wrap head. So
probably, yeah, I would.
I thought it was alfoil. You're supposed to use alfoil.
Oh, foil. Oh, okay.
Aluminum foil, man. Aluminum foil. Come on, man. I don't know if you know, but behind these paddings, there's all aluminum foil. So I feel secure when I go into the dark web.
Not just supposed to wear a condom for that.
Huh?
Because they will try to fuck you.
Oh no, woman does that every day already.
I think we should go to
commercial break
to Ray's question.
Elevator music.
Oh, I broke myself up. Okay, so going back to is this sci-fi adjacent for a moment, or is it actual sci-fi? From a writer's perspective, you could almost rewrite this and have it as like, okay, I'll give you a perfect example. There's an anime called oh god, now I can't remember the name of it. God, my brain is just not helping.
Of course, it's up to you when you need it.
Let's see if Google will help me. No, it doesn't seem. Oh, there it is. Outbreak Company. Not a title it's easy to remember, but there's an anime called Outbreak Company, which really doesn't say much about the content of the anime. But in it, there's a fissure found in the ground on the slopes of the lower slopes of Mount Fuji. And it's a gateway between, well, they believe it's a gateway between Earth and a fantasy world. And people go through there, and the Japanese Self-Defense Force sets up a base on the other side, and they get to know the people there. And then they decide that they want to do cultural invasion. So they find a guy who's a complete nut about otaku culture and has, no friends and family that will notice if you. Sorry?
Isn't that Gate?
No, it's not Gate. No,
wow.
Gate is similar, but this has got a completely different setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to check it out. It's really good. I've watched the anime multiple times. I've read all the books, and it actually turns out to be a sci-fi. I won't tell you how, but it does. But you don't find that out in the anime. You've got to read to the end of the books to find out it's one of those. Oh, and by the way, so the setup is very similar to this in that they go somewhere else, and it's a fantasy realm with magic, as you would, but they basically use otaku culture to invade the place. And this guy becomes a teacher at a school teaching the locals about otaku culture, and the local empress gets all interested in it and him and so forth and so on. You get the love triangle and all that sort of stuff. You vaguely remember it?
I seen it. Now I remember. Yeah. I seen it. Yeah. Yes. Really
good. The lolly empress.
Yes.
She's like 14 or something.
Yeah. Got it.
Outbreak Coming. And the half-elf maid. You'll remember the half-elf maid.
Yes.
You have to. Yes. And, there's people who are against this cultural invasion and try and bomb the place with magical bombs and all sorts of shit. So, the shit goes down. It's a good yarn. I really quite like it. But right at the end of the book, you discover it's actually sci-fi. So yeah, I mean, it is a sci-fi, but it doesn't feel like a sci-fi to start with. But their whole thing is, oh, we found this fissure in the ground. It's got this gate in it that allows us to go to another world. It wasn't actually another world, but it's very similar in effect to what this movie does with technology. And I just feel like you could write out the technology. You'd lose Michael Crichton's beef about corporations just using people and throwing them away like used tissues. But that's one of his bugbears, I think, because it was the same in Jurassic Park. It's the same in this. I haven't read any of his other novels, but I suspect that it's one of his regular beefs that he has.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, you could, as a writer, I can look at this and quote an example, Outbreak Company, where you could write this and completely remove the technology aspect, and it would just become, there's a gate and you go through it and you end up in France in 1357.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond the explanation of, well, we just found the thing, it was in a hole in the ground, and we don't know how it formed. Basically, they say the same thing in this, despite the fact that they've got this technology that they were trying to use for quantum teleportation of objects, and it didn't work out the way they thought it would. And then they found out that it locked onto a stable wormhole back to 1357. There's no explanation of how it works, why it hooked up to the thing. It could be impurities in the coils. We don't know. It just does it. And it's a little bit of hand waving. But really, why I feel this is sci-fi adjacent rather than sci-fi is the technology aspect really doesn't need to be there. You could tell the same story without it, just about. You'd lose the whole corporations are bad and K, but you would for the actual main part of the story, which is, hey, look, we went back in time and changed things, but we didn't actually make that much in the way of changes, and it's already been reflected in what we saw when we were digging things up. Except that they remember the history of her being hung off the battlements and being killed. But in their story, she doesn't. So they do make one change, which was reflected in the sarcophagus, but wasn't reflected in the written histories. So there seems to be a bit of a disconnect there. I'm not quite sure. I mean, I haven't read the book, so maybe the book did it better. What do you say, Robert? Do you remember those details?
Well, I do. As a matter of fact, it's been a while that I haven't read that book, and that's hence the reason why I want to.
Yeah, that's why I didn't think you'd have the answer.
But I do remember, if I go by memory here, I do remember that I felt the same way when I watched the film in comparison to when I read the book. So based on that, I want to make the assumption that the book did it better.
Mm. I mean, the book has more time to set it up.
Yes. And I did remember it was very obvious. There was a bunch of things in the film that was extremely obvious. And that's the reason why I thought it was done on purpose, because it's just too obvious, right? But when you read the book, it wasn't that obvious. They had a lot more time to go on the topic. And as a matter of fact, I remember, and this is my question here for you guys, because you guys haven't read the book. When I watched this movie, I already knew the story back and forth. I knew what every character was thinking because obviously I read the book. So I always questioned, was this film obvious because I read the book?
Yeah.
But it seemed like it was too obvious. If you know.
Yeah, it was heavy-handed. I've got to say the script writer didn't make anything subtle, which, will get the most viewers, the people who don't think deeply about these things, which, we do, and you do specifically, Robert. But yeah, I picked up on everything really quickly. It just was one of those, well, that's bloody obvious kind of moments. There wasn't much in the way of surprises. Even the whole, oh no, the tunnel ends here, and I'm like, yeah, it's blocked, but something will blow up upstairs and it'll open up. And even the Frenchie guy turned around and said, oh, going to kill you. You're spies. It's like they're spies because they're at the end of the tunnel crying because they couldn't get through. Dickhead. I mean, sure, you're disappointed, but killing somebody because you're disappointed, you know better than that other guy, the English guy.
Poor Francois. He got killed because he was a Frenchman.
Yeah. And the guys around him were saying, don't say it. Don't say it.
He got trebuchet.
He did.
Oh.
He got Greek fired.
I think that he met Sasuke and he went, Amaterasu.
Wow. So
I mean, that poor guy, he didn't want to go. He was really nervous. He's the first one to die.
yeah,
Wow, the first one of their group.
that was rough. I remember that was very, very rough. Actually, it was worse in the book.
In that defense, I don't think that he should have translated that he was asked to translate. That could have saved his ass.
Well, it was a lord. He was telling him to do it. Yeah, I get you there. I definitely understand you there.
I would have translated, I am your
brave.
friend. I would have translated, I am your friend. I would have said whatever he didn't want me to hear. Gonna kill me anyways.
I am a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
Sorry, translation error.
Yeah. Moral message: if they got you by the balls and you're done for, at least let them be pissed off about it. You know.
And that's, ladies and gentlemen, is what our very own Captain Chaos would do.
Yep.
Awesome. I'm not. I would be really curious to hear you guys' thoughts if you ever get to read this book. I know it's a tall order, but if you ever get there,
Do you know what Robert is doing there, Ray? It's like when you're a kid and your parents always tells you no, so you ask them for shit in front of people so they don't tell you no.
Yep. That's true. That's true.
Robert, I love your book, Ray. I love your book. I'm not a great reader. and unfortunately, the movie didn't make a great case for faxing people.
Yeah, sure didn't. I'll take the bus, thanks.
I'm gonna ask you guys something. I mean, do you feel that?
And Michael Crichton is a great writer. Let's not get that twisted. He's actually one of those people that had changed film industry and sci-fi as a genre. He's been very influential on it. So I'm very well aware of that. You know?
Yeah. Did you guys feel that Lady Claire was worse than a toddler?
Yeah. She was a redhead.
I feel like you take your eyes off of her for a second,
and she's trying to die again somewhere else.
She's out. She's on her way. She's out of there. Stay by your brother. Oh, the English are attacking. Run away.
Like if I was, I mean, I get now why the Merovingian ended up in the Matrix now. It was like, I'm fucking out of here. I'm going to the Matrix again.
Oh dear.
And I mean, he seemed like he was doing far better in the Matrix. With Persephone was so much beautiful. No, I'm kidding, bro. They were beautiful. Even though I think that the lady here in the medieval times, smelly days, you know. Oh.
What about the lice?
Two, you know, it will be, how do you call that? Itchy love. Oh. Baby, I'm itching for you.
Oh, that's just lice.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't miss. I'm glad I'm born in these times and days. I'm glad.
He must be the king. Why do you say that? He's
much.
not covered in shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys a question that I always had when I watched this film, right? Like, if you had the ability to travel, like the characters on this film and the characters on this book travel to medieval times, um, do you think? And I don't know what thinking here. I'm on either side of the camp. Do you think that
You would
the
take a frag grenade with you.
there you go. That's the best way. Um, do you think that diseases would actually kill you, or do you think that the evolution of humanity and all the inoculations that we have done through the years would kind of cure us from most of the diseases that we encounter?
It'd probably kill you unless you were really lucky. Mainly because we now rely on antibiotics to save us from bacteria. So any resistance to it is unimportant for survival. So those genes are not prevalent in the population anymore, considering how much population we have. So, the Black Death and a lot of those diseases that swept through Europe and killed, half the population or whatever, they were bacterial. And there was no way to deal with bacteria. Viruses still killed a lot of people, but the plagues were generally bacterial. And of course, these days we can wipe those out with antibiotics fairly rapidly, unless it's some sort of multi-resistant golden staph crap, which is still bad news. But generally, you would get back there and you go, "Oh shit, where's my antibiotics?" And they go, "Nah, you don't get that until 1940 odd."
Yeah. So the vaccine, and I guess the question that I'm where I'm going with this is the vaccinations or the accumulation
Generally,
of vaccinations
viruses
will not make, like, it wouldn't matter basically.
Well, it saved you from viruses, but the
Not
bacterial plagues wouldn't. I mean, with modern knowledge, you would, eradicate all rats
Mhm.
from your environment and kill them with fire. Basically, don't let the fleas from the rats get on you, because that's what transmitted it. If you know the vector, you can block the vector. So you'd have a chance of doing that. But everyone else is like ignoring the rats and letting them chew on the soles of their feet and all that sort of crazy shit. Yeah, rats used to do that. And basically, if other people have got it and you come into contact with them, you'll get it.
Yeah.
There's no hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Glycerol isn't a thing, so you couldn't make your own. You could douse yourself in alcohol regularly, trying to kill off, bacterial pathogens on your skin or what have you. But I mean, yeah, life was rough back then. I mean, there's a quote in the movie. There's one thing worse than dying back here, and that's living back here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So I mean, we don't appreciate the sort of life that we live at the moment. And if you travel to parts of the world that are still there, that are very, very poor and don't have access to clean water, the right amount of food, medications, you will see just how well off you are. And you might appreciate it a bit more. We normalize to whatever our environment is. That's what humans do. It becomes normal, and then everything is comparative.
We take it for granted.
Yeah.
Well, to take for example the people that live those areas, those times, and the timeline of history. For them, life is normal.
Yeah.
Don't go
and
far.
horrible.
Don't go far. I've been in farmland many times as a kid. That's normal in El Campo, where we're from, Robert. And I've gone with people to places like that, and I love it. I adore a lake. I love a stream. I love nature. They don't. They actually hate the smell of cow shit on a farmland, which is totally normal to me. And I am like, I am in my place, and they're like, oh, it stinks in here. There's mosquitoes in here. Let's get out of here. and that only that gives me a glimpse of how much we take for granted. Of like for many people, it's unbearable to be a whole day with no AC sitting on a house. For me, it's a normal thing. I got AC. It's nice. But if I don't get it, I still take a nap when I'm tired and sweating mosquitoes. It's just normal, you know? So that's why I think I might survive it. But I don't wanna call my shots.
Well, it's all a matter of luck, really. If you don't come into contact with the plague or anything else like that, like I mean, if you're in a rural area and the people are spread out, you're probably going to be pretty good as long as you don't have an accident because there's no emergency. Like if you break your leg, you're fucked because you can't even get it set.
Hey, I can eat two ice creams and get the popsicles and put it on my leg and then tie it around.
They don't have popsicles.
No popsicle.
There's just sticks.
No ice.
No ice, no popsicles.
There's ice. I just gotta go to Mount Everest.
With a broken leg. With the bone poking out of your leg. Yeah. Sure.
Oh, you'll be surprised how far I can drag myself, buddy.
A continent and a half.
Yeah, that was what I'm thinking about.
Look, you don't have to go that far. There's the European Alps, all right? You can get somewhere. There's plenty of glaciers.
Help him out, Ray. Help him out, please.
Plenty of glaciers. You'll be fine. Just drag yourself there. Far closer.
Oh, wait for winter.
There you go. There you go. You just gotta make it to winter.
You'll just fester and get green and die.
I just put cognac or some Harley core over my wounds.
Mead.
And as a poor farmer, you've got all that sitting around, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to be a pirate. What a great idea! Just chop off that leg and.
Well, it increases your chances of survival if you take the limb off that's damaged, but it doesn't secure your survival.
Exactly. Oh, wow.
I think I'll stick with modern medical technology because I'd already be dead about 6 times over, I think, if it wasn't for modern medical technologies.
True.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. I mean, we definitely take our normal life for granted because, I mean, all it takes is like watching a film like this and realize how, which I think they kind of did a good job in giving you a window of what might be like. It wasn't 100%, obviously, but looking at something like this and how life was back then, it gives you a like, you know what, we have it really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we can just go to the washing machine, throw our clothes in, put in the laundry detergent, wash our clothes, chuck it in the dryer or hang it out, and it's dry, and then you've got nice clean clothes. I actually thought it was a bit weird. Kate's clothes look way too clean.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, somebody goes past and goes, I smell flowers. You smell weird. Why don't you smell like piss and shit?
You don't smell normal. Like shit.
Well, exactly. It makes you wonder if that's the reason why the people were looking at them strange. Remember when the whole group just got there and to the village, and they're walking through, and people are looking at them, and it makes you wonder.
I mean, they had some older people in the group that was moving up to the castle, and I swear some of them had gout and all sorts of other shit going on, and that was just normal because there's nothing you could do about it.
Mm-hmm.
For God's sakes, I learned that in Renaissance time, the toilet was a bucket that you would dump down your balcony into the main street. So streets smell like shit because people literally shit and piss and dump it in the street right in front of them.
Yeah.
Because they didn't understand contagion.
No, and there was no sewers. That's why sewers were created, is because sickness happened because of this lack of plannings. So take a lot
it's all basic knowledge we take for granted now that they did not have.
Yeah.
I think also that's the reason why they would prefer drinking a lot of mead, because of all
Contaminated water.
it contaminated the water. So it was safer to drink mead
Than water.
than water. And meat, and I say meat and not wine because that's the average person. No one had no one could actually afford to drink wine.
And look how crazy it was. Not common knowledge, but they could have just boiled the water and they had drinkable water. But nobody ever knew that little trick to survive on it. How crazy is that? It's like, even though it's not advanced technologically, we always had the technology to drink water anywhere and make it drinkable, but purify it by boiling it up. But
you don't even have to boil it. You don't even have to boil it. All you do is you get a pot of water and you put a clear canopy over it if you've got Glad wrap or plastic or something. I mean, this is modern day. And you just let the sun beat down on it. It will evaporate, come up onto the surface, condense, and then you get it to trickle down into a container on the outside. And that's pure, clean drinking water because impurities will not come up with the evaporation.
True. That's actually how many people, like in island survival programs, that's how they start their drinkable water system right away.
Yep.
They look for plastic bottles that are in the trash, like somewhere, right quick. True.
I mean, yeah, but it's all knowledge. You got to have the knowledge, and most people back then didn't even know this shit was dangerous.
Technology comes in so many ways and forms. It's like that saying I heard. I say like it is intelligence to know that tomato is a fruit. It is wisdom to know not to put it in a fruit salad.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
I'll pay that one.
Okay. Should we move on to the last question?
Yeah.
Sure.
So the last question of the show, if you follow our show, is basically a combination of all the times. This might work better for me than from the other hosts in here. Combination of times that you have seen the thing that we're talking about. What is your last impression? Not sure who wants to go first. Maybe we should let the person who actually watched only one time go first. And
you go, Ray.
Okay, so as a sci-fi,
don't be too harsh.
As a sci-fi, I thought it was an interesting historical tale. You know, those arriving with more knowledge than anyone else should have, and attempting to rescue somebody who shouldn't be there, and then getting embroiled in the events themselves and causing a paradox, which the paradox was not rectified by the end of the movie. It was a plot hole, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, it was interesting because they couldn't have been afraid of Lady, what's her name? Lady
Claire?
Lady Claire, yeah. They couldn't be afraid of Lady Claire being hung off the battlements and being killed if they wasn't written in the histories, and it wouldn't be written in the histories if they stopped it happening, yet they stopped it happening. So why was it in the histories? The knight, the carving of the knight on the I was going to say esophagus, that's not right, sarcophagus, was obviously Merrick. And that was made clear at the end of the movie by them digging around the side of it and finding his epitaph. But yeah, that was made clear, which all worked. But the whole Lady Claire being hung off the battlements thing, which was stopped, changed history. So therefore, it shouldn't have existed for them to read to be concerned about it. So it was a paradox. And it wasn't cleared up. So I was a little bit disappointed about that. If they found a clever way to clear up that paradox, I would have been a lot happier with the construction of the movie. Other than that, if you just want to like turn your brain off and watch some sort of sci-fi enabled History Channel flick, then this is for you. They do set it up quite well. There's a lot of good callbacks later in the movie to stuff that they saw and went, who would do such thing? Oh shit, it was me. Which was cute. And it had a lot of edge of your seat stuff, the grenade going off in the transport chamber and then them having to fix it within 4.5 hours or everybody be trapped in the past, and should we bring them back? Shouldn't we bring them back? The traitor who couldn't come back because he'd end up, all busted up on the inside. So he was making a life back there, and he hated them for it. And so he killed his boss, because he could. There's a lot of "because I could" going on in this movie, including the science.
Yeah.
No. I will say that the science is more for the sake of the plot. Remember that portion, that element.
Yeah.
Very important for many things that we watch, that they happen for the sake of the plot.
You're quite correct that the science was there for the sake of the plot, but also the motivation of the people doing the science, which is another thing entirely, was a lot of "cause we could."
Yes.
Well, it is
Not
very
because we should.
The main motivation of mad scientists is like they can, so screw morals. What are those?
But when you're playing with other people's lives, that's when you like. There's very strict requirements for human testing, and they weren't following any of them.
No.
So yeah.
But I mean, thanks to that, there's scientific advancements, right?
Yeah, you are correct, but they're not ethical scientific advancements.
I'm not claiming to be otherwise.
I know. So I mean, despite a couple of issues that this movie has in its logic, and despite the heavy-handedness of the foreshadowing, it really was quite an interesting movie. I thought I was going to be bored, but I definitely wasn't. I wouldn't say that it's a perfectly written and executed movie, but the acting was good. The sets were good. The costuming was a little, I thought, but they did a lot of hard work to make it look lived in, which I thought was a good effort. And British just burning everything down, scorched earth policy was like, yeah, you. I mean, the British were the bad guys. They were really bad, and the French were the good guys. It was made very clear that the French were the good guys, which is a bit of a flip-flop from most English-based movies. Usually it's the other way around. So that was interesting. It was entertaining with a few caveats. I think I would have to call it sci-fi adjacent, because the science fiction wasn't integral in the movie. It was enabling for the plot. So it didn't quite fit what I would call the sci-fi mold. It was more sci-fi adjacent, but it still had science elements. So I think it still counts. I want to give the book a try. I want to see if Michael Crichton's source material landed a little better than the movie did. Just for those couple of little niggling things that bugged me. But of course, being a scientist and a writer and somebody who's big on plot and internal consistency, I'm interested in these sorts of things. So I want to go back to the source and see if he did a little bit better in the book. So I will be attempting to have a read of that, unless I forget. But I thought it's worth a watch. I didn't feel like I'd wasted my time watching it. So that I give it maybe 5.5 out of 10 if we were giving numbers for these things.
All right.
A little bit better than average.
So, Gio, you want to go next or?
I'll go next.
Okay.
I think it was a fun movie. One of the things I like the most about it is that not being so spot on with the scientific things, right?
Scientific,
The scientific things. It's something that I could sit down let's make an example with my grandma, you know, and she will have fun watching the movie. Whilst if I try to watch with my grandma Inception, poor lady will be so confused that she will walk off the living room.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Hey,
That's how.
I was confused with Inception.
Oh, bro, really? I got the movie from the beginning, but I mean, that's how nerdy I've become with media I consume. That it has to be that way, you know. That's why when Interstellar came out, I was like, it was like orgasmic cinematic for me and writing, you know. But I have friends and family that they could not stand that kind of shit. They're like, that this is just boring and confusing. I don't know what you get out of it, you know. And I think that this movie is one of those things that can bring people from different walks together. Uh, but you have to leave the sci-fi scientist hat outside the door to watch it. If you're gonna watch this movie like that, it's like if you're a Trekkie and you want to watch Star Wars and think that you're gonna find the same thing you want. You know, I think that is a great movie that brings audiences together from different walks, and I think that it has a good touch of comedy, it has a good action. The plot is simple enough, and I think that it has its uses.
Trebuchet.
And I think that you mentioned already in a conversation that it was cheesy, and I think that there's a use to it too.
Oh
It-
yeah,
not-
yeah.
it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think
No.
that yeah, they were copying and shredding people. That's why they're faxing them. So I don't think that that was an error. I think that that could be probably a purpose thing, and that is why this movie, the French were the good people and the American were the bad guys. And they
The
were being
British.
bad against and they were being bad against themselves. That's the worst thing.
Yeah, it was the British, man. At that point, the Americans involved the Native American Indians. That was it.
It's like
I'm,
the
I,
only Americans were the Indians, so yeah.
yep. But I think it's a good watch. And again, if you're a Paul Walker fan, many of us are, it's a good warm, fuzzy feeling watching him again. You know, that's what we all gonna still have him is in movies that he's been.
But Paul
And
Paul Walker wasn't the MVP.
he wasn't, but I mean, I love many things that were Paul Walker's part that are not very famous movies. Besides the Fast and the Furious, for example, there's a movie called Takers that I love so much, and he's part of it. They're just like they're a group of friends that are rich and they do heist. You know, uh, it's not a very scientific movie or anything. It's just an action movie with a cool plot. You know, it's like it's like watching explosions and action just because it's another side of me, you know. Uh, so I would definitely suggest it. It's not something that you will watch 15 times, like I watched The Matrix, or Lord of the Rings, or the Harry Potters, or such. But it is something that it's a fun watch. You should watch it at least a couple of times for sure. Uh, I'm not a great reader, but if you are, it probably gonna excite you to read the book. I can tell that much. And I mean, Michael Crichton is a phenomenal writer either way.
Awesome. Okay, so my last thought on the film, um, it brought a lot of nostalgia for me watching it today. Or today being the last time that I have watched it, um, it made me want to go pick up the book again. Um, that since it has been so long, the last time that I read that book, um, there's a couple of things that I might not remember, but I do remember how I felt reading the book. And it was just total. It was awesome. Um, I would not have read the book as many times as I have read it if it wasn't as awesome as it is. That's pretty much what happened to me with Kaiju number 8, and how I had to go and pick up the the manga. The same thing happened to me on this one. But I remember how excited I was when they announced this film, and they when I watched it. And one thing that I can say is I do agree with most of the stuff that you guys said here. This is a real fun movie. If you are into books like I am, or should I say I used to be, because I'm not reading as much as I used to read, this is one of those that it's going to make you want to go pick up the book and see what is the story told from the original source. One thing that I can say though is that if you are one of those who are able to go ahead and read the source material, the book from Michael um, Crichton, you are when you rewatch this film, you're going to have a complete different perspective because you know what how the story is, and you probably will have a different perspective from mine, for example, because you would have watched the film first and then read the book and then rewatch. When I watched this film, everything was already. I already knew what everything was gonna, anything that's gonna happen in this film. I already knew it. I was just excited to see it on film. I see it on the big screen, and I really, really enjoyed it. But yeah, like our very own Captain Chaos mentioned, this is a film that actually brings um, people from different tastes together. If you are, if you really love period films, like era films, you're really going to enjoy this one. But yeah, I really enjoy this film. I really enjoy the book, and I'm actually very very curious to hear from you guys if you have actually only watched the film, if you only read the book, if you watched the film first, like I did, and then I mean, like I'm hoping you guys would do, and then read the book last, or like I did, would I read the book first and then watch the film, and get your perspectives on what your experiences has been. But overall, the film is great, and I recommend it again. There's a lot of inconsistencies we talked about. The one of the examples that our Rion Matt Santis have mentioned, the paradox and stuff like that within this film. But if you put this belief and just put it in a safe place, you'll get back to it later and then watch this film. I think you're going to really, really enjoy this film. And that is my last thought.
All right. Are we ready for our last segment?
Yeah.
I think we are.
This is gonna be an interesting one.
Sci-fi.
And now get ready so we can give you the science behind copying people and shredding the original parts.
It's a scientific part.
Yeah.
You guys are tag teaming me now. God.
I think that that's what was happening in Texas Chainsaw Massacre is that they were getting rid of the original ones.
Right. So basically, they made a copy of them, and then the originals dropped through a hole and got shredded.
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
Exactly.
Yeah.
When I was watching the first episode of Fallout on Prime, they had a room called compost, and that's where they put all the bodies after the big fight. Just drag them all into the compost room. You know what that's gonna do, don't you? It goes on the plants to fertilize them. Everything gets recycled. Everything. Well, it's a vault. They're supposed to keep it all in house, as it were.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to find links to technology from this movie, even though it's 21 years old, which means there's been some time for the ideas in this movie to filter out into technological advancement. We do not as yet have wormholes that can take us to the past.
Or fax machines that can fax you.
That I know of. I'll put that caveat on that. That I know of. Please don't correct me if you do know of one. But I don't know. But if you do know of them and it won't get you killed to tell us, please join our Discord and let us know.
Or if you can join our Discord, tell us, and we won't tell anybody.
Yeah.
You mightn't. He might. Anyway, so I sort of wanted to talk around the whole faxing people thing. And it kind of has the same issue with the Star Trek transporter issue in that the initial person gets deleted and a copy is made somewhere else. And that whole idea was explored in a episode of Next Generation where Commander Riker was transported through an ionic storm or something like that, and his original was not deleted. And so there's two Rikers, and one's been stuck on the space station for years, and the other one has been a Starfleet officer rising the ranks and doing so forth and so on. And yeah, there were some real issues about, well, we hate each other and I should have been you and rah, 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 and all that sort of stuff. And it kind of circles back towards the issue of consciousness and what constitutes a person. Is it their consciousness and their memories? Is it their physical atoms that they're made up of? Now, I'm not 100% sure if this is correct, but I did hear some suggestion that the human body recreates the cells once every 7 years. So every 7 years, the cells in your body are new ones. They're not the same as the ones that were there 7 years ago. So theoretically, there's a new version of you every 7 years. I don't know if that's correct, but it asks the question: what is a person? What is it? Your consciousness? Is it your physicality? What is a person? And then when you go through things like this, like deleting somebody and recreating them somewhere else, it then begs that question: well, if that consciousness is no longer here and it's over there doing something else, is that still the same person? Or is it a copy of them that's just continuing on from a save point? What is it exactly? Does it still have the same rights as the original person? Can it claim property rights and things like that? There's a whole bunch of issues around deleting a person and making a copy of them somewhere else. Right. So this sort of idea of this technology really has some legal issues, you might say. Of course, we don't have this technology, so we don't have to worry about that just yet. But if it's ever invented, there will be this question. And of course, if there's an accident, then there's two of you who is the correct one and which one's the copy, and who should have the legal rights, and is it the intent of the person to be deleted and recreated at the endpoint? So the endpoint one is now the real person, the other one's a copy, or is it the one that didn't get deleted is the original because physically speaking it is? So, there'll be a lot of issues about this sort of stuff, especially if it doesn't work 100% of the time and you end up with two copies of a person. So it's not even the case of like twins, because twins are biologically different. And the moment that they start experiencing life and, changing in their own ways as two separate organisms, they may look similar, but they are different people. Absolutely, definitely different people. So it's not even that sort of an issue. These are theoretically exact copies, or there is an exact copy of the person. So that will become an issue if we ever get Star Trek transporters or this technology up and running, or whatever it happens to be. So that was something I wanted to bring up. Do you guys have any comments on that issue?
Well, I think that the thing that makes it not problematic is that as long as the copy is generated at last second before teleporting, it would always think that it's original.
Yeah.
So long as the original So long as the original never finds it. The only other way is like when a copy of a copy gets so corrupted that it starts having gaps in the memory, I would say, of the data compromise. It will be something that externally it could confirm is not original at some point.
Yeah.
But
yes, if the process changes the result so that the person's not an exact copy anymore, then yeah, there could be some issues there too. Yeah.
But basically, otherwise, it is a perfect evil plan.
My perfect evil plan.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible. You're killing people and getting copies of them, and you
Now,
are basically just fucking up who they really were for a cheap copy.
Yes. Facts. Did you have a comment, Robert?
Well,
On that one?
it's that is something that always um, stuns me. And coming from me who has watched a lot of Star Trek, um, the ability to um, transport someone in this manner, it's always something that stuns me mentally. I'm thinking and thinking and thinking about this, and um, I think you could literally see smoke coming out of my head when I'm thinking about this. But yes, I do agree with you guys. I always thought, like, is there any way to make this technology, at least in theory, work as intended, if not as we thought it actually works? And what I'm referring to is what we're talking about, especially in the transporter scenario, how you are literally destroying the original copy by decomposing the object molecularly and then recreating them in another place. So it's actually worse than the technology. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe this technology is actually worse because you're faxing and killing the original. So you're killing the original. You're faxing a copy. So I don't know what's actually worse. Uh, but one of the things that occupies my brain is not how I think it works and how horrible it is, but how could it what kind of changes do we need to make? And again, in theory, this is not a technology that has even been proven. How can we make, in theory, a technology like this work and let's say effectively, if I can say that, where we are not killing the original, where we're not destroying the original, but actually transferring it. And it, of course, I haven't found a solution. But every time I think about this, and this is the reason why I said I get stunned, is because that's where my brain goes. It's like, what kind of changes can we make to this technology to make it work?
Do not force Robert to deal with reality. He won't.
I wonder if you guys ever thought about that. I mean, maybe for 2 or 3 seconds, and like, yeah, we know this is a horrible thing to do. Again, we're talking. It's kind of funny how we're talking like this technology is already happening. But this is sci-fi, but regardless, how we are killing someone by
Yeah,
using this, you know, transportation medium, but could it be done where we don't kill someone?
Sure, but you get overpopulation really quickly.
Hey, maybe
And would you
maybe
and would you want 20 chaoses running around?
I mean, if I had another one on me, only I will be happy.
Yeah, but he'd be so disagreeable, you'd never get him to do anything you wanted.
No, trust me, I love myself that much.
the and I'm gonna
I'm not gonna try to get him to do anything. We're just gonna take over the world happily.
Just don't make yourself the human centipede.
Let me put it this way. I am not gay, but I would love that man so much.
okay. So going back to the original, going back to the original thought, what I'm talking about is the possibility of actual travel and not copy of a person. Now, one thing that came to mind in my many times mulling over this is maybe the only way to solve, say, for example, in the case of the transporter, is the use of a wormhole where you
a
are,
la Stargate.
yes, kind of like that. So there's an entry point and there's an exit point where you actually would go in. So you're basically not. You're not being decomposed. You're not being destroyed and faxed. You're literally walking through a door and appearing somewhere else. And that's the only thing that I can think that would fix this technology. Um, the way that a way for us or humanity to be able to not only create but control wormholes. What is your thought about that? Because again, we're talking about not scientific topics here, but science fiction topics.
Yes, I realize that, because basically, as far as I'm aware, this technology does not exist yet, so we can't really say, hey, and in the real world. But I do have something real world to continue on with in a minute.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, preferably you, including your molecules, your atoms, go there intact. And I think that was the idea behind Stargate, was that you actually traveled intact. There was no disassembly and reassembly. Although the way the wormholes worked in this one, you actually had to be disassembled down to an information stream and reassembled at the other end. That's the way they were talking. Not that there was anything at the other end to reassemble you. I don't know how that worked, but they didn't explain it. So hard to say. I mean, their original technology idea was, I don't even know if it was wireless transmission. It kind of looked like wired transmission from their technological design that they were showing. You know, the picture with the map, and there was a line going like this, and that looked like maybe a cable of some description.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was wired transmission. So, you know, I've always said, you know, it'd be great if, you know, somebody could fax me a cupcake or something like that. I found this really nice store in California. They had this fantastic cupcake. Yeah, fax me one. So that'd be great if you could. And that's probably where he got the idea from, for the story in the first place. The whole idea of, you know, destroying and recreating, which is supposedly how transporters would work in Star Trek, and the issues over that, people refusing to be transported because they know it won't be them anymore. And I also thought that transporters could be an amazing medical device. You get yourself scanned into the buffer, and they keep a copy of it there. And then whenever one of your organs fail, you have them recreate that organ on the transporter pad and then put it in. And then you are functionally immortal.
You don't even need medical, like a medical procedure. You just go into the transporter and
they transport the crapped one out and put a new one in.
Exactly.
I mean, it might work. I mean, the whole thing is that people's bodies change over time, so it mightn't be the exact place it was when you were scanned. That could be an issue. But I mean, if you could adjust it slightly, which you know, this is Star Trek technology. Why wouldn't you be able to? So, you know, it could be a whole medical procedure. Oh, I just need to refresh my organs. I'll be back in 20 minutes.
Nice.
I drank too much last night. My liver hurts. I just go get a new one. Hang on. I could see that being popular. So jumping from that topic to faxes, which is something we do have. Now, quiz time. Let's see how much you know. What year was the fax invented? What was it?
1845.
Actually, 1843. You were close.
Oh, wow.
You were very, very close.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I'm surprised. Did you look that up before the show, or was that just
no Google? Promise.
Was it a guess, or did you actually know it?
It was a guess. Okay. Based on like how should I say that? Is an informed guess based on how other technologies. So I guess the number around what I know most technologies, you know. But yeah, I was surprised that I was right. Well, not right, but close enough.
You were very close. You were off by 2 years, dude. That's like margin of error. It was very good. So yeah, basically, I learned something. I had no idea that it was. I thought it was invented, like 1930s or somewhere around there, and became popular in the 50s and 60s to get documents around the place over phone lines. But yeah, first mechanical fax, 1843. Alexander Bryan invents the electrical printing telegraph machine in 1843, which is the world's first fax device. And then 1880, scanning phototelegraph. English inventor Shelford Bidwell invents the scanning phototelegraph machine, which is the first telefax machine capable of scanning and sending a two-dimensional image. And then in 1888, allowed to send where is he? Elisha Gray invented the teleautograph, which allowed users to send signatures over long distances. 1924, wire transmission. Scientists at AT&T Corporation advanced fax technology further by sending photos by telephone and wireless transmission. Same year, Radio Corporation of America develops transoceanic radio facsimile and successfully transmits a photograph between New York and London. That was 1924.
Nice.
I mean, technology was there way back when for some of these things, but it just wasn't common. So, I mean, technologies get developed these days for the military first, and then it leaks down to regular folk some years later. But I mean, this is like high technology for 1924. And also in 1924, they managed to do it in color. Color facsimile in 1924. Pretty amazing. And in 1924, it took 6 minutes to send a page, which, didn't improve very much for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember dial-up. That was bloody slow. And then, of course, in the 1960s, satellite fax, telephone transmission in 1964, got down to 3 minutes for a page in 1974. A fax machine cost $20,000 in 1982. Ouch. $20,000 was a lot of money back then. Like, seriously. Computer-based fax board in 1982. Internet fax in 1996. 2010, internet fax via Apple devices. And in 2011, internet fax via Android devices. And then, of course, it was all digital across the internet by that stage. And functionally, faxing wasn't so much a thing anymore. It became internet transfer. So it had its time, and it was very useful. It used a lot in the medical circles. Faxing medical documents was always considered important because they had to keep a copy local, and you could just zoom it off to where it needed to be. You didn't have to post it, so they could get it the same day. But yeah, the fax has been around for a shit ton longer than I thought.
Yeah. I mean, I remember going to a doctor's office and seeing a fax machine there. I mean, I didn't see it being used, but the fact that it was there, I was like, wow, they still use these things.
Oh yeah, takes them a while to change things up. Of course, a fax document is way more secure than something attached to an email.
Yeah.
And being medical documents and stuff, they probably think that's a safer way to go.
It's definitely cheaper if you're like looking for documents that, signed documents and stuff like that. I mean, they have a service. Adobe has a service that you can pay where you could actually have, if you're selling a house, for example, some important documents, your taxes, they can send you a link. You can sign it online and send it back. But the problem is that service is super expensive. So it's always cheaper to just get a fax.
There's even services where you can attach a PDF file online, and you will put the number it goes to, and it will send the fax to that number from your computer. That service is like that, actually.
I actually have a service like that on not that I use it because I don't know where I would fax anything, but the Hewlett Packard printers, they have the HP Smart. Nowadays, if you get a printer, you have that app that you download. You can scan any document from there, and you could actually fax it, putting a telephone number, and it will fax it anywhere. But yeah, fax machines. I'm surprised they're still being used.
Yeah, I mean they still work. It's just there's alternatives which are cheaper and faster, but not safer. So I mean that's probably why they stuck with them, at least for medical documentation.
Yeah. Awesome.
So did you have a couple of things you wanted to go over, Robert? Or?
I don't know. I mean, this being this movie being so scientific-y, so scientific-y. Well, one of the things that I wanted to kind of briefly mention and not really get too much into detail is something that I found really interesting about this film. It is, when we talk about archaeology and historical reconstruction, this film involves archaeological exploration and the reconstruction of historical events. Archaeology plays a crucial role in uncovering and interpreting historical artifacts, which help historians reconstruct past societies accurately. And I find that a little fascinating because, that whole scientific branch. I don't know if I can. Yeah, I could definitely call it that. It's so important for learning of ourselves. And many people, I'm sure you have heard this so many times, and even this film has mentioned it. It actually has a quote on it too, where history always repeats itself, and that's why we want to know about history. We want to learn about history. Um, and there's a point in history where if it's not written, and even if it's written, right? How we always heard that the history is written by the winners. This branch of science is so important because you don't take what's written as Bible, right? As yeah, this was written, so this is what truly happened. But this people in the scientific branch allows a second look, um, and to seeing, okay, did was it what was really what was written? Was it really what happened? And where this becomes very, very important is when we go past that age where either, we don't have written content of what really happened, or, like the greatest, one of what I call one of the greatest tragedy in in our human civilization, which is the loss of the Alexandria Library. I feel that there was a lot of knowledge that was lost there. So where this becomes very important is when we go to the era where there's no written material. So we have to actually get different things archaeologically and examine it, research it, and come up with what really happened based on the uh, what was there. I am sure that it's not 100%. Well, how can I say this? I want to say it's not 100% accurate because we weren't there. Uh, but it's not, that statement is not 100% accurate either. There is a big science behind what they do. One of the examples is like, what we see in this film is carbon dating, and how they actually can test something and tell you from what year is this thing from, in carbon dating. One example in this film, like I mentioned, was when they were carbon dating the ink on the message from the professor, and how they were told that it was from 1357. So the reason why I wanted to bring it perspective is I find it really fascinating, what it is done in this branch of science, and the importance to humanity. and how it gives you a little window of what happened, so we can learn from our past and hopefully make better decisions on our future. Um, I don't know if you guys find this branch fascinating. Do you have anything to add? Have you ever thought about those this branch of
I've thought about lots of things. Archaeology won't give you an alternate account of any particular event. What it will do is either provide hints, and they're really only hints, to the veracity of an account. Like, we had this fleet and it was sailing between Greece and Italy, and we got hit by this big storm and we lost so many ships, and it was roughly around this area, and then we went and did that and the other. You can look at the bottom of the ocean and find the wrecks, and if the number of wrecks is roughly equivalent to what the account says, then you can say, okay, that part of that account is correct. But where you can't find relics to match up with an account, it makes it very difficult. The other thing that archaeology will do is give you some hints into how people lived in the past based on what you can find. And the understanding increases over time with the more archaeological exploration is done. So ideas that they had about how things worked in the past may be overturned by things that they discover more recently. So archaeology is, excuse the pun, not set in stone. It can change.
like any good science.
Like any good science, exactly. Yeah. And I find that very interesting.
Yeah, I find it fascinating how it's not perfect, right? But it gives us a hint. It gives you a window, where you can get a sense of what happened. Gio, I think you wanted to say something.
No.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's the reason why I wanted to bring it up, because I found it very fascinating. I was kind of interesting to hear what you guys thought about that.
Oh no, it's a good science to base a time travel story on. I thought that was quite smart.
Nice.
Well, that brings us towards the end of our show. Of course, the discussion doesn't have to end here. You can join us on our Discord. We'd love to have you visit and tell us what you thought of not only this movie, but other IPs that you're keen on. We'd also like to hear what you thought of our take on this movie, whether you agree with us or you think we're full of it. We don't mind. We're happy to find out what your take is and discuss it with you. You could well change our minds, and it has happened before. My mind has been changed on topics that were brought up just by discussing it. I go, oh, I never thought of that. And we're always welcome to hear a differing opinion. We won't ever say, oh, you're an idiot because you have an opinion. Opinions are based on the information you have at the time, and every opinion is valid. So we'd love to have you over on our Discord. The link is on the screen now if you're watching us on YouTube. Otherwise, you will find an invite in the description. All you have to do is install Discord if you don't have it already, either on your PC or your mobile device, and use that link to get onto our Discord. We would love to have you. Now, please remember that Discord, you get out of it what you put in. So the more conversations you start, the more conversations you have. So we attempt to start all the conversations we can think of, but of course everybody's got their work to do and can be busy. So it's not always jumping. There's not always things going on. But if you start a conversation, people will join in. People will...
Tell you what, you started, and then I'll make you regret it.
Way to completely torpedo my monologue. Thanks, Gio. If you want somebody to argue with, I can vouchsafe that Gio is a great person to argue with. I argue with him all the time. And we're still best mates, so don't worry about it. You can have difference of opinion on our Discord without causing discord, as it were.
It's all right. Even when I'm always right, I can sometimes fake it. I can fake it.
and you can, under the right circumstances, completely torpedo his ego as well, which is quite amusing when it happens.
My ego. Oh, I am flattered. You think I have that?
You sure sound like you do. Other ways to contact.
If I'm boasting about something intangible, me being right all the time and being a perfect being is not about ego or perception. That is just reality. Not everybody can touch with it. I will be great for this movie because you can fax me all you want and I'll be the perfect copy all the time.
Oh dear.
Oh, nice.
He loves derailing my closings, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
It's his hobby. Other ways to get in contact us, we have a couple of websites. The first one is sciencefictionremnant.com. That's where you can check out the latest happenings, our most recently dropped podcast. It also has our back catalogue, so you can search through and find IPs that you're interested in and find out what we thought of them. And of course, do watch the IP before you listen to us because we spoil like crazy, as you probably gathered listening to this episode. So you will want to catch them first so that you don't lose out on those surprises that makes the story interesting. Also on there, we have articles written by not only the hosts here, but other interested writers talking about different concepts in both science fiction and science. So check those out. They're really interesting. We also have another website, which is in its infancy at the moment. It's called thisisscifi.net, all one word, thisisscifi.net. And that we plan to have that as a hub for creators. And it'll be another way for you to check out new IPs and find out what other creators are up to and what you can add to the This Is Sci-Fi hashtag. We do have a Patreon if you would like to help us out, because of course creating this podcast is not free, and Robert's shouldering those costs at the moment, but it would really help if you could help us out. Obviously it's a monthly thing, and you have options as being one of the early patrons to decide what you'd like to get as a reward. We do occasionally record our show preparations, but if there's anything else that you'd like buttons or anything else like that, please let us know and we'll see what we can do about making that happen. Of course, providing money to a podcast every month might be a bit rich for your taste, especially in this economic climate. So if you wanted to make a one-off contribution, we have a Buy Me a Coffee link. So you can check that one out. Of course, keeping Chaos caffeinated so he can derail me at every opportunity is very important. So if you want to support us through Buy Me a Coffee, hopefully we'll keep Chaos caffeinated and he can keep being the chaotic man that he is. Don't forget that we have a hotline you can leave us a message on. We'd love to hear from you. That's 1305-563-6334. That's 1305-563-6334, or drop the 1 if you're in continental United States. You can leave a message there any time of the day or night, and we will listen to it and we will respond to it on the show, or we will play it during the segment, and we will talk around it. And of course, if your message is, I have this IP I really love and I really want you guys to do it, no worries. We'll look into that, and we'd love to have you on to join us as a special guest, as a topic expert, and you can tell us about your love of that IP, and we'll join you in experiencing the love of that IP, because we are science fiction nuts. We've got to have all the science fiction we can get, so we'd love you to show us something new, because that's always fun. Yeah. So thank you all for joining us. Check our back catalogue for IPs that we've covered in the past. There's quite a few of them now. Do you know what the number is, Robert? How many we're up to now?
At 160, I believe.
On the court?
We're getting up there. Nice. So you got 160 options. It's 161 after this one drops. But
you're talking about Discord?
No. And I'm looking up
episodes, yeah, about 160, yeah.
What episodes? Yeah.
I'm looking up the exact number just to be on the safe side here, but 164 episodes, not counting the last two. The last two is this one.
And so by the time this drops as a pod, it'll be 166. and by the time it drops as a YouTube, it'll be 170. So there's plenty of options. We love cranking these things out, giving you all the good stuff about what we think about different sci-fi IPs and how it connects to science and how much damn fun it is to do this stuff. I love doing this podcast, and I think I speak for these other guys as well in saying that we love doing this for you, and we hope that you're enjoying it as much as we are, and we'd love to have you come on if you've got a favorite IP you'd love to chat about. But that's about it for this week. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you'll listen out for our next show and the following shows because sci-fi is awesome, as you probably worked out by now, and we love it.